All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Darren Houghton. I'm with the Division of Aging and Adult Services in the state of Utah, and I am the Senior Medicare Patrol Director, which is the Director of Medicare Fraud Outreach and Education. And today we have a special webinar with FTC as a partner of scams that are going on with the FTC. And the FTC is also going to share with us today some of the things that they're seeing, top scams that they see around the country, how to handle those scams and how to report those scams. And today we have with us today, Carrie O'Brien. And Carrie O'Brien is going to introduce herself because she is a very important person. And I don't know. And I will let her share that with you. So I'll just turn that time over to you, Carrie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, great. Well, first of all, thank everyone who's on the line for joining our webinar today. And thanks to Senior Medicare Patrol and the Utah Department of Human Services for hosting the webinar, and especially thanks to Darren. I've always been a huge fan of the Senior Medicare Patrol across the country because you've always done such a great job of getting the word out there about scams and frauds that we're seeing, and just being aware of what's out there is so important to help protect yourself from experiencing a scam. My name again is Carrie O'Brien. I'm actually the acting regional director of the Federal Trade Commission's Western region, and I've been with the Federal Trade Commission over 30 years, so seen a lot of scams and frauds in my time. Just take a moment. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint presentation, so hopefully you will see it. Let's see. I think this is it. Share. So are you able to see the PowerPoint presentation, everyone? You can, okay. Let's see.
It's a little condensed, but yes, we can see it, yes.
Okay. Wonder. I wonder if I put it on a different screen. Back to. Sorry for technical issues. Let me just see something. Let me stop sharing a second and see if I move it to a different. For my. Let me try sharing again. Does that look a little better?
Yes, there we go. It looks great.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to pause it. Well, here I go. Okay. All right. Thank you. So anyway, this is, if I go back to my first slide, and then I'm going to be giving you just a ton of information over the next, I don't know, 45 minutes. And it's probably violating one of the kind of cardinal rules of giving a presentation where you're just sort of like overwhelming people with information. So I hope kind of the big picture you take from this presentation is kind of getting a general sense of that there are a lot of scams and frauds out there, and what kind of scams and frauds are in Utah particularly, but also that the FTC is a great resource for finding information about a particular fraud or scam. And we have lots of tips on how to identify a scam, and then also what to do if you've been, unfortunately, had to experience a scam. I think also I just would love for any of you who are interested in sharing this information with your friends or family or communities. We have just a lot of great resources. You can actually create a presentation like I'm doing today and give it to to your community groups. And so again, we're just a great resource that way. But overall, this is my presentation. I'm going to give you a really brief overview, brief introduction on who the FTC is. Going to talk about some data that we have about fraud in Utah, but then also nationwide. Talk a little bit about the top pandemic-related scams that we're seeing, and also just kind of more generally scams that are targeting or affecting older adults. And then finally, if I have time, go into some of the resources that we have to protect older adults. So the Federal Trade Commission, we are a federal agency that works to protect consumers. And again, as I mentioned, I'm with the Western region in San Francisco, and Utah is actually within our region. As I mentioned, I'm the acting regional director. I just recently have gotten an acting assistant regional director, and if I hadn't already been tasked with giving this presentation, I probably would have had her give the presentation because she's actually a native of Utah. So we have a lot of connections with Utah, which is great. The FTC is a civil law enforcement agency, so we bring a lot of civil law enforcement actions in court, and we go after scammers. We also do a lot of consumer and business education to hopefully help people identify and avoid scams and bad business practices in general. You may know us from one of our more popular programs, which is the Do Not Call Registry. Before I go any further, though, I have to give my standard disclaimer, which is while I work for the Federal Trade Commission, I cannot speak for the Commission or any individual commissioner. So my comments here today are my own. So I thought I would first delve into the data. I love data. And so where do we get all this data? Well, you can report fraud or other consumer concerns you have to the Federal Trade Commission. We collect these reports in our Consumer Sentinel database. And really, anyone can report anything. You can report it for yourself. You can report it on behalf of a friend or family member. All the information is voluntary that you provide. You can provide as much or as little information as you would like, and you can even provide information anonymously. We also accept reports from other groups, such as around the country, such as the Better Business Bureau, a huge contributor of information to our Consumer Sentinel database. And also even some private companies like Western Union and MoneyGram, they put complaints into our database. In 2020, we received more than 4.5 million reports, and this included 2.1 million reports relating just to fraud. But we also receive identity theft reports and also just other kind of general complaints about companies, some relating to the credit bureaus, others about banks and lenders. And again, I think I want to make sure you know where to go to file a report with us. You see on this slide is the reportfraud.ftc.gov. That is our new website for reporting fraud. And it's really easy. You just go here and click on the Report Now button. It's a very intuitive way to file a complaint. I think we think we've done a better job than in the past on how you could file a complaint with us. And what's really great about the Consumer Sentinel database, and I really encourage you to file a report, even if you haven't experienced fraud, but you get a robocall and you know it's a scam. If you want to report it, it's really great for us because this information is used by law enforcers all around the world. So by filing a report, you're making sure that your local, state law enforcers know what's going on in Utah. And while the FTC doesn't respond to every report that we receive, again, you're giving us, generally law enforcers, federal, state, and local law enforcers, the tools to know kind of like how should we be allocating our resources? What are people complaining about the most? it also allows us to see other sort of patterns and trends, and again, maybe even, you know, doing more consumer or business outreach may be something that we want to do based on what we're hearing. We also have blog posts that we have that will actually send out alerts when we are seeing a scam that's been popping up, and just to get the word out there to the public about what we are seeing. So I really want to encourage you all to file reports and also spread the word to your communities to get people to file reports. So anyway, let's go into the data that we're getting from Utah. This is data that this is an infographic of data about what complaints we're receiving just in the first quarter of 2021. And as you can see from this chart, ID theft was the #1 report, followed by imposter scams, which came in second. This has been kind of a trend we've seen over the last few years, that either imposter scams or identity theft have been like the #1 or 2 scam or report that we're seeing in our consumer Sentinel database. As you can see from this slide, just in 2021, the reported total loss was $7 million, with a median loss per person of $450. You can find, if you're interested, and maybe you want to do a presentation like I'm doing here, that all this data is available on our a website called ftc.gov/explore data. And again, we've, I think, done a really great job of kind of taking the data that we're getting in these from consumers and businesses and you know, Better Business Bureau, and kind of distilling it into these sort of infographics that makes the data a little easier to understand. So again, I would, if you're interested in data and interested in infographics, I would definitely check out our website. This is some information that I wanted to share this information with you. It's sort of, it's about what we were hearing from people in Utah during the pandemic about fraud. And this looks at data that we got from January 2020 to July 2021. So what kind of reports were we getting? Well, during this period of time, we received over 3,000 reports about COVID-19 issues. And if you look in the upper left corner, it gives an overview of the types of reports we were receiving. Again, fraud was the #1, followed by ID theft and do not call. If you look at the graph, looking at the graph to the right there, sort of the upper right, you can see the trends over time. And obviously it looks like there was a peak in April, but it's been going down since then. And total loss was reported of over $3 million. This is nationwide report data about what types of reports we were receiving during the pandemic. And as you can see, online shopping was the top report, which is probably not surprising. And I'll talk a little bit about online shopping issues later in my presentation. But you can see next on this chart that vacation and travel related issues were actually reported the highest loss, which you can see on the graph on the right side, or the bar chart there on the right. This is the last slide with data, but it shows, this is again nationwide data. It gives you some information about reports we were receiving broken down by age groups. And you will see in this chart, this page, that the 30 to 39-year-olds made the most reports, which was over 19,000 reports. The older adult categories, 50 and up, reported much higher losses though. And this is something that we've been seeing kind of across the board in our, not just coronavirus pandemic related reports, but all fraud reports, is where you kind of have these higher, you know, people that are younger reporting, or more often report that they lost money. But when someone who's older loses money, they lose a lot more money. And I'll be talking a little bit about that more later in some, you know, future slides. So leaving data, I thought I would talk a little bit about the various scams that we were seeing related to the pandemic, and a little bit about what the FTC has been doing about them. This information is all found on our website, ftc.gov/coronavirus. And one thing that we know from past experiences is that whenever there's a health emergency or a natural disaster, the scammers are following the headlines. And again, this is something that's very typical. Whether it's it could be fires, in California or hurricanes in the Gulf Coast. That the scammers are going to unfortunately come out and target people, reflecting those headlines. Some of the first scams that we saw were related to fake treatment and cure claims, everything from miracle cures. Also, companies offering early access to vaccines, offering test kits. And one thing that we did was, and this is true for across the board in the FTC, is we're always looking at companies that are making claims about products without scientific proof to back it up. So during the pandemic, our investigators and lawyers were trying to find companies that were maybe making unsubstantiated claims about their products, and trying to stop them. And one way we did this, which was, I think, very effective, is that we sent out warning letters to companies, and we did some of these with the FDA, basically demanding them to stop making these claims since it didn't appear that they had scientific proof. And many of the companies then very quickly took down these websites. One case, though, that we actually brought a law enforcement action against was a company called Whole Leaf, which was claiming to treat both coronavirus and cancer without any proof that it did either. We also saw an uptick in the number of email and text scams early in the pandemic. Scammers were sending emails and texts that were trying to get basically people to give over their personal information, or send money, or their goal also was to load malware onto your computer. This slide shows an example of a fake World Health Organization email that came into our possession. We also saw that scammers during this time were buying up lots of domain names with which included the word coronavirus or a misspelling of the word coronavirus. And unfortunately, if you visit one of these websites, they might put malware on your device. So one piece of advice that we try to give folks is, just be very cautious if you ever click on a link from a source you don't know. It could download a virus, which none of us want. Another tip we really want to encourage everyone to do is make sure you have anti-malware and antivirus software on your devices, and make sure that they're up to date. The FTC also brought a number of law enforcement actions against online sellers for failing to deliver on their promises to quickly ship products like face masks, sanitizer, and other PPE related to the pandemic. One of a really old rule that the FTC has is called the mail order rule, and I think it's a fabulous rule that it's actually changed over time. Originally, it was just it dealt with like mail order catalogs, but now it includes orders that you make online. And it basically requires companies, if they promise that they're going to deliver or ship a product within a certain amount of time, that they actually have a reason to believe that they're going to ship it within that period of time. And also, if they realize they can't ship it, they have to notify you and actually give you the ability to cancel the order. So many of these companies that we went after them for violating the mail order rule, or what it's now called the Mail, Internet, and Telephone Order Rule. One thing, another tip, I think, is to also always pay with a credit card. If you don't get a product, if they don't fail to ship a product as you've asked them to, you can ask the company, the credit card company, to reverse the charge. As I mentioned earlier, scammers follow the headlines. So when the CARES Act was passed and the subsequent American Rescue Plan, again, scammers were targeting consumers or people with fake relief checks, basically trying to exploit the uncertainty about these government programs. We tried to sort of get the word out about these programs when this was going on. And if you look on the upper left corner, is an example of a social media shareable that we created. And basically, we wanted to get the word out about kind of tips for people to maybe identify these scams. Some of them talked about, the government will never ask you to pay anything for upfront to get this kind of this stimulus money that was promised. That's a red flag that it's a scam. If someone does that, if someone's saying that they're the government and they're calling you, texting you, emailing you, direct messaging you, asking for your social security number, bank account number, credit card number, again, that's another red flag, that it's a scam. And also, and this is true across the board, if someone, contacts you and asks you to pay with a gift card, cryptocurrency, or a wire transfer, again, it's a real red flag that it's a scam. We also put out some information related to the stimulus checks relating to nursing homes. If you look at there's an example on the left bottom corner of this slide is a blog post we put out because what we were hearing was that nursing homes were requiring the residents to sign over their COVID checks, their stimulus checks. And the truth being that, the money belongs to the residents, it doesn't belong to the nursing homes. And we really want to encourage anyone that if that happened to, if you know of someone that happened to, that they should contact their state attorney general's office to hopefully get the money back. We also, are always looking to see whether there are any scams that are targeting small businesses, and we certainly saw that during the pandemic. And at the right of this screen, you'll see a press release that we put out about a law enforcement action that we brought against a company that falsely claimed to be an approved lender for a federal coronavirus relief lending program. And the defendants claimed that they were affiliated with the Small Business Administration, but they were not. So again, that's something that we were doing during this. It was a kind of scam that was showing up, and an example of one of our law enforcement actions that responded to that. Before I leave coronavirus as a topic, I just wanted to highlight that all of our resources about the coronavirus, scams and tips and blogs, infographics are at our website ftc.gov/coronavirus. It has a directory of all the information that we have. All the information is in English and Spanish. We also have tip sheets in additional languages which are listed on this slide. Here are some examples of our infographics that we created. Some of them talk about coronavirus scams, like I did, just went over with you. Talks about vaccines. Some of them talk about contact tracing. Again, these are available in English and Spanish. And one really great thing about all the material that's available at the FTC's website is that it's all in the public domain. Please feel free to print them, post them in your, if you have a senior center, post them, at your church, community group, whatever. It's all free. And we actually even encourage people to plagiarize our material. So you don't have to attribute it to us. The main point is to get the word out there about these different scams and what resources are available. I wanted to talk briefly about some financial impact scams that we're seeing related to the coronavirus. I lied, I guess. I have one more slide about coronavirus. And these kind of scams crop up whenever anyone's in financial distress. Again, this is a situation where the scammers are seizing on headlines to perpetuate their scams. Some of the financial impact scams that we're seeing are fake job postings, fake work at home, fake credit card scams, debt collection scams, mortgage scams, debt consolidation scams. And our website, again, has all the information about these various scams. And again, they're it's sort of like these scam artists. We've seen them for many years, and they just sort of repackage the same scam, but like tie it to the new headline that's going on. And if at the end of the call, end of this webinar, if you have any questions about any of those particular scams, I'm happy to talk about them. But I'm a little bit conscious of time, so I don't want to go too in the weeds about them. Every year, or every year, we put out a report to Congress. This is the one we put out in October. It's called the Protecting Older Consumers, 2019 to 2020. The report summarizes the FTC's efforts to protect older adults using research and strategic thinking, law enforcement, and consumer education. One thing it does is actually analyzes our consumer Sentinel database, and in this particular one, it was analyzing data from 2018. Again, I think one of the key findings of the report, and I'm sure it's true to this day, is that while I think younger adults report losing money more often than older adults, which is surprising, I think. But older adults are more susceptible to certain types of scams, tech support scams, prize sweepstakes and lottery scams, and also we call imposter scams, which I mentioned earlier, but especially ones, family and friend imposters are kind of, they're more likely to fall for that type of scam. And I wanted to go get a little data. Well, again, this report talks about 2018 data. I thought it'd be more interesting for you to see data from, from 2021. This is a infographic, and again, you can get this on our Explore Data website, which is kind of neat. This is an infographic that focuses on people who reported that they were 80 years of age or older. And again, not everyone who files a report reports their age. So this is just data people that voluntarily gave their age as 80 or older. And as you can see, adults aged 80 and older were less likely than younger adults to report losing money to fraud, which is what I mentioned earlier. That's very typical. But younger adults reported, but people that were aged 80 or older reported losing the most of any other age category, with a median individual loss of close to $1,600. And that's, again, it's been something that's been very typical across all frauds. And one thing that I was actually surprised, we put out sometimes we do a little data spotlights on different types of fraud. And this was also held true for romance scams, that people that were 80 or older, reported losing the most to a romance scam. As you can see also from this, at the bottom of this page, that gift cards were the payment of choice for these scammers, and that also they reported losing money most often to phone scams. So it's gift cards was the method of payment, and when asked how did the scam artist contact you, it was through through a phone. This is for folks 70 and older, and again, very similar to the age 80 and older group, where phone scams were the predominant method of being contacted. But you can see that they reported losing, the median loss was only $750, so it's almost half what was reported for folks age 80 and older. And again, gift cards was the payment of choice. And I'll talk a little bit about gift cards in a few slides. Just for your information, this is for folks 60 and older. Again, similar results, but this is, instead of phone being the predominant method of being contacted, this is the first time we say that the method was either by online, a website, or they interacted with the scam artists through an app. I mentioned earlier how we really saw a big uptick in reports about related to unreceived goods and other online shopping issues during the pandemic. And during, we put out actually one of these data spotlights in July of 2020, so a year ago, talking about what people were reporting in the early days of the pandemic. And again, a lot of it had to do with failure to get various PPE or other things that you would want to use during the pandemic, and also toilet paper was popular. And one thing that we found looking at the complaint database, and I think this is something to keep in mind generally when shopping online, is that scammers have really gotten really good at creating remarkably polished looking websites. They also are very adept at using social media and online advertising to their advantage. They are very good at doing, trying to negate negative reviews that they're getting online by closing down and opening up under a new name. And again, the biggest tip, I think, from shopping online is always to use a credit card, because again, you can ask for a chargeback with your credit card company. If it's you're dealing with someone you're a company you're not familiar with, I mean, again, one tip we do have is that you should, it's probably good to check with the Better Business Bureau, see if there are any complaints, but also even just typing scam or complaint with or review is a great idea on the internet, and making sure that there's actually a physical address that so that makes gives you some comfort that the company is actually real. Gift cards, as I mentioned earlier, especially for folks 70 and older, is a popular way for scam artists to get people to give money to them. Gift cards, unfortunately, are like cash, so that's why it is sort of the method of choice for a scam artist. If you've been experienced a scam where they've asked for a gift card and you've actually given a gift card, one thing that we recommend is that you call the company that issued the gift card right away and ask them to refund your money. On our website, we've actually have contact information for all the most popular gift card companies. So it's a good, I definitely would check that out. Amazon, eBay, iTunes, we have the numbers there of who you should call directly. We also have, this is just an aside, if you do it by money order or wire, you wire money. It's very important to, if you realize it quickly, to call MoneyGram and Western Union very quickly. You may be able to get your money back if you do it very quickly. Wiring from your bank account, you can call. I think the Justice Department can get the money back from you very, but it has to be within the first 24 hours or so. So there are ways to hopefully stop from losing the money, but it is something that is very time sensitive. We also saw we've also seen a lot of fake check scams. And these are associated with a prize scam or a job scam, or if someone's selling something online. Scammers, well, basically, the way it works is they send you a check and ask you to deposit the money. But then for some reason, you have to either send the money back to them, maybe they sent you too much money, or if it's part of a job scam, they're asking you to send it to a third party. And the problem here is that banks are required to deposit money very quickly. So even though the money has hit your account, you don't know yet if the check is bounced. And if it bounces, then you're basically, you're sunk. So we have some tips on our website again on how to spot and avoid and report fake check scams. So I encourage you to check that out. I wanted to talk just briefly about government imposter scams. These are obviously very, I think we've all experienced them, where you get a call that they claim to be from the Social Security Administration, the IRS, Medicare, police, or sheriff. I would visit my folks recently, and my dad admitted that he had been a victim of an imposter scam. So even the parent of someone who works for the FTC can become a victim. These are very sophisticated scams. I think especially in the romance scam area, people are willing to put in they're willing to put in the time to maybe months and months and months to gain your trust, because the payout can be huge if you're willing to send them a lot of money. But we have a lot of tips on imposter scams on our website. We have some really great infographics about especially government imposter scams. Again, I think some of the main tips are, don't trust caller ID. If someone calls you, again, it happened to my dad while I was visiting him. He got a call from Amazon, and I said, don't believe it, call Amazon back to make sure it's true. And of course he didn't and said it wasn't. So, it's just so prevalent out there. I wanted to talk briefly about cryptocurrency investment scams, because again, this is another area where scammers are following the headlines. And we're just seeing as you can see on this graphic, a huge uptick in reports about cryptocurrency scams. Since October 2020, reports have skyrocketed, with more than 7,000 people reporting losses of more than $80 million on these scams. The median loss was $1,900. And it's everything from people promising that they want you to give them the cryptocurrency that you own because they can do something better, get you a better return, to impersonating folks like Elon Musk, and it's really kind of wild. But anyway, it's something to be concerned about. And if you are interested in investing in cryptocurrency or have cryptocurrency as an investment, just be very cautious about that you may be dealing with a scam artist. So anyway, I think I'm running a little behind on my slides, which I predicted, but I wanted to give you some information about the resources we have to help avoid scams, but then also if you've experienced a scam or your friends or family have experienced a scam, what resources we have. Again, I think the biggest thing is just to stay informed, to share what you know, and just be very skeptical when dealing with a company or a person you don't know. And also just, I guess I can't almost encourage it enough, where I think all of us have experienced scams, and sometimes it's embarrassing if you've experienced a scam. But again, these folks are really talented and experienced and great at what they do. And I really hope you aren't embarrassed and are willing to share your experiences with your friends and family, because the more we talk about them, the more likely that we're not going to fall victim to the next scam. And certainly it never hurts if someone calls you and is pressuring you to do something, to stop and take time and talk to someone about it, because that can help you identify that it's, or realize that you're dealing with a scam. We have some nice brochures that you can access. Again, they're all free, and these are some like 4 signs that it's a scam. One thing, and this I'll just briefly talk about, this is unwanted calls. One of the best ways to, especially a telephone scam, and again, people 70 and older are more likely to be contacted by phone, is to take advantage of our Do Not Call registry. And again, I'm conscious of time. Just wanted to show you one slide. Again, data that we've gotten from our Consumer Sentinel database is about robocalls. Again, everyone's receiving these annoying robocalls, and this is some data that we received from Utah from January 2017 to March 2021. And you can see here that a lot of the robocalls are about reducing debt and also imposter scams. And again, we were receiving a lot of, during the pandemic, a lot of robocalls about that were related to the coronavirus. And we actually sent a lot of warning letters to actually the VoIP providers, which are the folks that facilitate robocalls over the internet, to let them know that they may be violating the law. And these are some tips on unwanted calls. Again, I think the best advice if you is to register for the Do Not Call registry, because if you get a marketing call from a company you don't know and you're on the registry, you can pretty much sure it's a scam because they're obviously not complying with the law. Again, I'm sure all of you know not to trust caller ID because it's easy to fake a local number. And I really encourage you, even if you don't, if you have the time and you get a robocall, if you report it to the Federal Trade Commission, one of the nice things is that we're actually sharing that information on a daily basis with the carriers and other companies that provide call blocking technology. So it's a really great, it's one of a great resource for them, and you're basically helping other people when they get a call from that number that it's a robocall. Here's our this is a slide showing our Do Not Call registry website. It's really easy to report unwanted calls, to register your number, and to verify that you actually are registered. We've also come out with some really nice tips on call blocking technology. So if you have a landline or a cell phone, we have some tips on how to, where to go to take advantage of that call blocking technology. I also just want to do a short mention of our identitytheft.gov website. As I mentioned in the beginning, identity theft is a perennial #1 or #2 report that we receive. When I first joined the commission, we really couldn't do anything for folks that were a victim of identity theft. And since then, we've, I think, just done a great deal and coming up with this wonderful resource for consumers or people that have been a victim of identity theft. It's identitytheft.gov. It's actually basically a one-stop resource for reporting and recovering from identity theft. When you go onto this website, you can create a identity theft report and get a personalized recovery plan based on what you report. And it basically walks you through the steps you need to take. If you create an account, you can come back and update what you've done. It basically takes the place of a police report. So if you need a report that you need to share with a credit reporting bureau agency, or debt, someone's trying to collect a debt from you that you don't really owe, it has all that information. You basically have that report that you can share with them. It should save you a lot of time and work if you are a victim. It even has great things like you put information in and it'll actually spit out form letters for you that are personalized based on the information you've given. So it's just a really wonderful resource. So if you've been a victim of identity theft, or if you work with people that have been, I really encourage you to take a look at this website. Here are some examples of kind of how intuitive it is in terms of, you just have to kind of click on what category the identity theft was involved. Sort of like, was it an impersonator that took your identity? Was it related to a job or money marketing opportunity, for example? And again, just you don't have to type in a lot of stuff. It sort of has designated topics that you can just click on, and you'll walk you through the process. I just wanted to briefly also just give a shout out to our wonderful Pass It On campaign. This is a campaign that we've had for a number of years, and we keep updating it with the latest scams. Basically, the idea of it was that people respond best to messages about scams if they're hearing it from a trusted source. And often that trusted source is your friends and family. And we wanted to give folks who are interested in doing, for example, a presentation at a senior center, the tools that make it easy for you to do that. So their PowerPoint presentations, their videos, their games, their topics you can talk about that are all available on our website, Pass It On, ftc.gov/passiton. And again, I think it's also really, I go to it all the time because they have these wonderful one-pagers on different scams. And it's, this is, very short, to the point. This is the scam, and these are the 3 things you need to know about it. It's really wonderful. Again, all this material is free. We ship it free. You can download it. I really encourage you to take a look at it. And this is just sort of a screenshot of the Pass It On website. And again, it shows you how it's been organized. Again, please, if you have any questions about this or are interested in doing a presentation, please reach out to me, or I'm happy to help, because I think it's just a wonderful resource for us to get the word out there. And again, like, we're always adding new topics. I think money mules was a recent one that we added. So lots of new scams, unfortunately. Again, this is our, just to let you know, if you're interested in getting any of our brochures, again, they're all free. Bulkorder.ftc.gov is where you go to order them. And again, even if you just want to get a PDF and print them, or just actually, like I said earlier, it's all free. If you just want to take part of it and put it in a newsletter that you create, we really want to encourage you to do that. Just a final reminder of where to report scams, frauds, and bad business practices. You go to reportfraud.ftc.gov. And again, if you know someone who's been the victim of identity theft, go to our identitytheft.gov website. Again, it's a really wonderful product that we put out there. And again, one of the main ways to stay protected from scams is to stay informed. You can go to our, you can subscribe to any of our blogs. We always are putting out blogs or, little alerts about what scams we're seeing. We have some really great videos if you're interested in particular scams, like the grandparent scams, for example, are really popular. We have a really cute video on that. Again, all the information we have is shareable. And that is it. I'm happy to take any questions anyone has, and also just encourage anyone if you want to share any scams that you've been seeing recently. Yeah, I think the group would, appreciate hearing from you. So with that, I will pass the baton back to Darren.
Well, thank you, Carrie. That was great. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box for us. I have been answering most of them so far, mostly about getting the presentation slides. If you put your email in the chat box, I will send you the slides of today. I can also send you any other information that you will request. There was a question about how to report some of the do not call stuff. So I gave them the phone number for that. But overall, as you can see, Carrie provides a great wealth of information for us to share with seniors and seniors that are attending this. I do like to throw something on there too. If you're getting a call from a live person that you know is a scam, one of the things I like to tell people if they don't want to report it to the FTC is go to their local dollar store and buy a whistle. And then the minute the person gets on the call, blow the whistle, and I guarantee you they won't call you back from that phone number. You'll be put on their do not call back list because that is something that they don't like at all. I wanted to share with you guys some of the things that are going on in Utah, just a couple different things before we close up here. And I wanted to show you the biggest scam so far in the state of Utah. And if you guys can see this, let's see if I can separate them. Oh, there's the camera. These are like Q-tips, right? So the biggest scam medical wise in Utah is called genetic testing. And they deal with these particular types of Q-tips. And I am going to share my screen right now. And this genetic testing it seems very, it's not that big of a deal. Some scammer will call you over the phone and say, hey, we have this technology that if you use these Q-tips and you put them in your nose and we can tell you, or your cheek, that we can tell you if your medications are hurting you or if you have some type of cancer. And all you have to do is swab it and send it back. So as you can see on the screen, that Medicare does provide some type of coverage for this. However, it has to be ordered from your actual doctor for it to be covered by Medicare. And so these people call, these recruiters then pick up doctors on the sign to sign off for these labs, and they go to the lab and then they bill Medicare. Most of the time, this is not covered. So you're like, well, how much is this? Is it, a couple $100, not too much. These are actually billed to Medicare and they cost $10,000. And if Medicare doesn't cover that, sometimes these doctors and recruiters actually bill you for the leftover cost. And that's a lot of out-of-pocket money. So as you're going out and starting to visit other facilities, other events that are going on, that you might see people that are actually marketing these genetic testings. Either they'll, like I said, they'll call you on the phone or they'll actually be at health fairs. Just stay away from these people because these are fraudulent and you could be on the hook for them. And $10,000 is a lot of money for me, let alone anybody else. The second type of frauds that we're having here in Utah is this other one's called the brace scam. Any type of brace that you see on the television where do you hurt or does your body not feel good? These imposters call you on the phone and say, well, does your back hurt? Well, I don't think I know anybody that is under or over age 40 that doesn't hurt somewhere, right? And what they do is these scams just send you unnecessary medical equipment. And unfortunately for us, the hard part is if you don't return them within the first 30 days, chances are that you're going to be stuck with it and you'll be left with the out-of-pocket costs with Medicare. And it can also affect the way that if you really need this type of brace, the way that you can get it in the future, because Medicare only allows it for so many times after so many years. So if somebody calls you and says, I need you, if you want a medical back brace or a knee brace or some other type of brace, you really need to talk to your doctor first to see what's best with you. I want to point out an example of this. I was in a little rural town in Utah, and this lady walked in with almost like a bulletproof vest. And I'm like, I went up to talk to her and I said, well, tell me about this brace that you're wearing. And she goes, well, these people on the phone called me and asked me if I was in pain. And I said, yes. And so they sent me my back brace. Well, this lady was probably 5 foot and her brace was a double extra large. So it looked like body armor on her. And that's what she had to, she didn't return it in time. So that was her back brace for the next year or so. And it's unfortunate these things happen. The last part I want to talk to you about is what the Utah Senior Medicare Patrol does for seniors in the state of Utah. Our job is to help you protect, detect, and report all types of Medicare, Medicaid fraud, and senior health care related issues. It can be senior related fraud issues too, just like the FTC. We will help you with those types of complaints. But we want you to see this here where, we encourage you to always check your Medicare summary notices to make sure that things are billed properly, to protect your Medicare information. Don't just give it out when people call you on the phone and say that they're from Medicare, or your social security number, if that happens. And then report it. It's important that you report those to your local senior Medicare patrol, which are in the local area agencies on aging, and we will help you with that particular fraud, waste, and abuse. It also includes FTC issues. We will help you with that too, because we know, based upon what Carrie has shared with us, we know the process to go through and help do online reports or how to contact them and so forth. So this is our phone number here, the 800-541-7735. If you call that on a local landline, you will get routed to your local senior Medicare patrol, which is there to help you. And then as we end up, and we'll move back to questions and answers if people have it, I did wanted to show you something specific about the state of Utah. We have it here. It's called Stealing from Grandma. And unfortunately, in the state of Utah, people who are perpetrating and abusing seniors in the state of Utah, unfortunately, 56% of them are family members. So I want you to share this information with your families and friends. That the fact that if they know somebody who is being abused, either physically, financially, emotionally by their children, to help report that, because the state of Utah and the Division of Aging and Adult Services has Adult Protective Services. And we're here to help protect these people, because as you can see there in this graphic, that up to $1 million a day is stolen from Utah seniors. And that should not ever be that high. It should be zero. And our job is to help make sure that our friends are not taken advantage of and that they're taken care of. As you can see there, per victim, it's almost $85,000, which is quite a shame. So as we come to an end, I do want to thank everybody for attending our presentation. And if you have a question, go ahead and send it. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Carrie, today? Maybe something new that you might have heard, or just maybe some final tips for people as they're going out and they're sharing their information with their families and friends, but also rethinking about some of the things that they're doing as they're going on, answering the phone, looking at emails, and so forth.
Yeah, just again, I just want to thank everyone for attending today, because I mean, by attending, you're really showing that you're probably less likely to become a victim of a or of a scam, and you know, you're just a great resource for your friends, family, and communities. So I just hope you can spread the word, and know that we're, you know, Darren or you know, the FTC, we're here for you to, you know, if you need any help finding the resources that you need. And we just really encourage you to file reports with us. Again, it's the only way we really know what's going on in Utah is by, you know, even if you're just being a good Samaritan. And what we've really seen from the complaint database that we have is that especially older adults are much more likely to report about scams that they're not even a victim of, but they just can identify them. They're really good at identifying scams, and they're getting the word out there. So I really, really appreciate that, and want to encourage you to continue to do it.
Well, thank you, Carrie. I'm looking to see if there's any more questions here. It looks like most of the people have provided their emails for me to, let me see one more, to help send out the slides. I will also send out, let me see here. I have one more thing that I will send out with everybody with the, sorry, I'll send out with the slides too. And this is the Senior Medicare Patrol's Common Medicare Fraud and Schemes. So it's a booklet, so you can just scroll through those and be aware of those particular types of Medicare frauds too for everybody. So with that, I guess I don't see any other questions. I appreciate everybody's time. Carrie, thank you very much. I will
Thanks.
stop the recording, and I will get everybody's email in a giant email, and I'll send off the slides and the books. Thank you very much. You guys all have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Be safe.